establishing peace in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. It did because I think people in Turkey are ahead of us here in a lot of ways because they just were so brave. They wanted peace and they were committed to that, and they wanted to do it, and they weren't afraid if it didn't work or is it going to be small. So absolutely, I've seen in Turkey what has been accomplished, all these schools, these hospitals, all these children getting a really wonderful education and really being ethical people. So absolutely, I think if everybody can start and really have hope, then I think we can accomplish a lot of things, which I was discouraged about that before I left for Turkey.
I see. So the trip reinforced your ideas, like gives you hope, more hope for future peace.
Absolutely, it did.
Okay. Did the trip raise any ideas, activities and projects of interfaith dialogue?
Oh yeah, sure, it did. I'm working with the Interfaith Dialogue Student Association at my school now, and I think since I've seen how easy it is just to get together and talk, but that's easy, but that really makes a difference, I feel more confident about planning an event or a speaker coming, just because I think it's really going to make a difference. Even if just one person thinks, okay, well maybe these people are okay and these people are like me, I think that's really a big and important step.
Do you plan to visit Turkey again? Would you advise your friends to go to Turkey?
I would love to go to Turkey again anytime, and I tell everybody when I show them my pictures, you have to go to Turkey. And everybody, I really want to take my family to Turkey. So I think I'll be back to Turkey with more people. I hope.
Have you read any of his works?
I hadn't heard about him until my professor who went to Turkey was telling me about him and I should read, and I started reading about him. But before that, before knowing someone who had been to Turkey and interacted with Fethullah Gulen, I didn't know. I'm embarrassed. I didn't know anything about this person who was so well known and done so many things, and I think, how did I miss that? You know?
So after you learned about him, what are things that attracted you the most?
Well, I agree with him that one of the most important things that we can do for peace is to be educated and share knowledge, because I think that a lot of the prejudice or ill will towards people who are different is just because people don't know about them. So they feel afraid because it's different and they don't understand it. So I think I agree with him that I hope I've interpreted him right, that one of the keys to promoting peace is to promoting knowledge and dialogue between people who are different. And I think that's really true, that it's not about talking at people, we're like this, but it's about saying it's okay that that you're different and I'm different and we're different, and that's okay, but we'll learn about each other. And I think that's really true, that we just have to try to get education, good education, to as many people as possible, and that's really going to spread the tolerance.
And have you had any information about the education activities encouraged by Mr. Gulen?
Had I had any information before I went?
No, after, what do you know right now about his education activities in Turkey and in the world?
Well, we visited schools, and I know they said, I made a comment about it being a Gulen school, and they said, well, he's not directly involved with the schools, but he was like the inspiration for the schools. So I'm not sure how involved he is. I think the impression that I got was that his teachings and his writings were sort of like the example and the inspiration for how they've set up the schools there. And I was really impressed with the schools that we visited. I was impressed with the students, with the teachers, with the facilities, with the hours that they stay there. As a student, I appreciate it. I see these, the younger high school kids that study all day and then they study at night too, and I was really impressed by their discipline.
What are things that you like the most about these schools?
Well, I was very challenged and humbled by, I was just saying, their discipline and dedication, because I think there's growing concern maybe in our country that the academics aren't up to the quality of other countries, schools in other countries. And I remember when I was in high school, we went to school during the day, but we didn't study that much in the evening. And I think I was being told they study here all day and then they eat dinner, but then they come back at night for these sessions with their teachers. And so I was really impressed by their dedication. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why these schools can contribute so much to peace and knowledge, because these are people who they're not lazy, they're informed, they appreciate hard work and discipline, and they're just like good people inside. And I think that the structure of those schools helps make them into those people.
Successful, especially do you think that there's a need for such schools even in the U.S.?
Oh, I think if people would do it, it would be wonderful. I'm not sure if the students here would be accustomed to working that hard. Not to say that there's not good students and good scholars, because there are, but I think that those schools are needed. I think that the mindset and the structure of the schools would be a blessing here, because the students would learn more probably. And I think if they could really focus on letting people who are different, having students from different religions and cultures and backgrounds there together, that would really be good. And I noticed that, I'm not sure if it was this way at all the schools, but we went to a high school and they lived there. I think the girls had a dorm kind of off down the street and the guys had a dorm closer. But living together makes them more like a family. So I think rather than just showing up for class and then leaving, but since they live life together, that really helps them to see each other more as brothers and sisters, and that they, even if they're really different, that they're closer. And we had a chance to talk and ask questions, and someone asked, how do they handle discipline if a child is disobeying or a discipline problem? And they said that normally the older students kind of handle that because they're more like mentors. So this responsibility that the students take responsibility for each other, and I think that even if just that one thing came to our schools, that the students take responsibility, because in our schools there's a lot of tradition of the older students beating up on the younger students when they come, and when you freshmen go to college they chase you or torment you, and I think if even just that changed, that would take care of so many discipline problems. And students who don't want to be a discipline problem, but maybe they have emotional problems or they feel like they don't fit in. So that would be wonderful. But if all the wonderful aspects were here, I think it would really be a blessing. I really do.
So do you think that if there are some more Turkish Gulen schools, education system in the U.S., it will even help for breaking the tension between the different ethnic groups, or even help to improve the education system?
I think so. I do.
Encouraged by Mr. Gulen play an important role in building peace in the world?
I do, because being informed is emphasized, and because having a good education is emphasized. I think that is so important, and I think it does play a role in world peace.
Years ago, unfortunately, a French newspaper published a caricature about Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, depicting him as a bomb, which created a big disappointment in the Muslim world. What do you think about that? What's your reaction?
My reaction, I understand why people are upset, because I think it's sort of reinforcing a stereotype rather than ignoring there's maybe a small percentage of Muslims who get so much attention because they're doing crazy things, and there's such a large majority of people who aren't like that. So I think to publish a cartoon like that is reinforcing a stereotype and giving the impression that, hey, the government of this country thinks that you're like this. And I think that upsets people because they feel like they were misrepresented. While freedom of the press is a good thing, I think it shouldn't be an excuse or used to degrade a religion. I think freedom of the press is good, but that there has to be respect there too. And so I hope they can resolve it peacefully. I mean, I don't know if at this point, if an apology would make these people feel better, or if they even need to acknowledge that this is not the majority of people. The majority of people are not this way. And I think that's what people were the most upset about. Well, it's because they did something disrespectful to Prophet Muhammad. And anybody who knows anything about Islam knows that he is very important to Muslims, and that he is